Question number 5 comes from Anthony. I am from Toronto, Canada, which calibrated pretty well from your previous Earthshift report. How will Toronto fare during this collapse of the West?
Okay, with Anthony's question, I actually had that in mind, and I included Canada's calibration in that last segment, number 6 of this webinar, in which I calibrated Canada progressively into 2025. And you go to that, Anthony, I'm sure your question already has been answered, and I did say that Canada will fare somewhat better than Collective West, than EU and US as of 2025. You see vividly the difference in calibration. As Canada still calibrates better now, actually a lot more positively, and Toronto calibrates better. You're right, Anthony. That was in Earthshift Report 17 for those who did not get the chance to donate and read that report. That's a great report based on quantum geocalibrations. So Canada and Toronto will fare somewhat better during the future collapse of the West. However, they will still be influenced by the proximity to the US. So if you haven't yet, Anthony, go and re-listen to segment 6 for calibrations.
Question 7 comes from Shamsa of the UK. When will this collapse happen, and will it be a global reset? So many views, so much confusion.
Again, Shamsa, go back to the webinar. I included the answer to your question as one of the segments of the webinar, which talks about the global yin-yang reset. In that segment, we discussed how the reset will be happening. Remember, more yin introduced in the West, more yang introduced in the East. Then I also continued discussing the timing of the collapse, and the section of the webinar that talks about timing of the collapse, that's my predictions. That's, I believe, segment number 5. Go and re-listen to that if you haven't yet, but I'm sure you did. So your questions should have been answered by now. And I'm sure there is less and less confusion as you listen to my reports and my webinars. The following webinar that will additionally address the timing of the collapse, the timing of everything that is going on, that's going to be webinar 4, period date predictions. Period date predictions is specifically designed for that. That's going to be August webinar. And webinar 3, the future of money, will also address that very, very deeply from the monetary and financial, in part, investment perspective. So you go to those webinars. That's going to be July webinar. That's webinar 3. August webinar is webinar 4. Go to those webinars and you will learn so much. Also, as I mentioned before, we will have a separate bonus free Q&A webinar specifically for all webinar participants of mine. And you're all welcome to attend. You will have to register for it, of course. And I will send you all invitations, and registration forms will be posted for you where they belong. So just go ahead and sign up for those, and more will be discussed. If you still have more confusion, more questions, if you still want to address any specific views that you heard somewhere and how that relates, or what I think about those views, you're welcome to address those during the free Q&A webinar.